People are always going to complain. That's life. And no matter what, people are going to complain. They're going to complain, they're going to criticize, and they're going to blame. I do it myself. I complain about things, I criticize, and I condemn. But I try to keep it to a minimum. I really do. I try to minimize that as much as possible. And I try to replace those things with action. Whenever you have the option of either complaining about something or taking a step toward fixing it, it's better to take a step toward fixing it. A lot of times, when I was in a really bad situation at a different department in the same place I work at now, there were a lot of really bad things going on. And I took steps to fix things. Maybe they weren't big steps, but I just did things to improve the quality of life. And I worked with other people to do things to improve the quality of life around me. And in many ways, in some ways, I suppose I became seen as somewhat of a leader. People admired me and they respected me, and they even, saw me as being somewhat of a hero and courageous and bold, but I wasn't. I was just someone who, for a long time, I'd always been a kind of person who thought that complaining really isn't the best thing. People do that so much. They complain about things, they criticize, and they condemn. Now, I'm not an atheist. And I've said that before. But I think about the atheist perspective, and I get to thinking that if I were an atheist, I would be thinking more in terms of what could I do instead of just simply criticizing, complaining, and condemning, and then also picking on people who aren't going to do any good. It's like you see someone make a video and they believe in God, or they start talking about spirituality even. They may even be someone who doesn't believe in God in a normal sense of it, but and so you just start hammering that person and hammering that person and hammering, which really isn't solving any problems. You aren't fixing anything, but you can always have the illusion that you're doing something, that you're really solving a problem by doing what I can only refer to as bullying somebody. Instead of thinking, what are the real issues that you really face, things that you can actually do something about? Because when I think about problems, I mean real problems, there are things you can do something about. When I was at work, I thought about problems, things that were going on where people were being harassed, where people were being afraid to do things which they actually had rights to do, where people's rights were actually being trampled on. And so I started doing things, taking steps, doing things to improve things. I didn't think it was very heroic. It was little things, just things of, comforting other people and helping them out and showing them things and doing whatever I could and being as reliable and dependable a person that my coworkers who were being abused, could depend on for help. And I get to thinking that I think of the same thing. If I were an atheist, what would I do to really be of help, to be of service, not only, to this thing, but to this cause, I guess, if you want to call it that. And I know some people criticize me for saying that, but that's okay. But the thing is, what could I do to make things better? How could I improve life for other people and for myself? Whereas I might see that religion isn't doing it, this faith in God isn't doing it, but I can do something, even if it's in little ways. Instead of just finding one person that I see and perceive as weak and hammering that person. Because the only reason why you would do that is just for some sort of feel-good effect. You just do it as a feel-good effect. I can feel good about that. It's like if someone took your parking space and you decide to fix the problem by bashing in their windshield. Yeah, I guess temporarily you'll feel good, and then when the police come and arrest you, then you won't feel so good. Sometimes doing things just because it makes you feel good is not the way. You have to do things toward making things better. And I keep thinking about real life situations in which I've been in. Not only that situation at work, but other situations in which I've had to do something to improve things, even in the middle of a really bad situation. And there were no easy choices. But in some ways, in a funny way, the choices actually were easy. Because when it's really bad, it actually is easier. Because do something to make things better. You're not going to make it perfect. You're not going to clear away all the problems. But you can always think about something you can do. Now, that's different from just sitting there and complaining about things, criticizing everybody, condemning everybody. I learned to replace those things with action. Whenever possible, replace criticism, condemnation, and complaints with action. Things that can make things better. So think about what you know can make things better. That's the thing. That's what I'm always thinking about. What can you do to make things better?